Hello grade 12s. In this lesson we are going to be reviewing the prelim paper 1. So we know that it's a good indicator of what's going to be or what the level of your maths exam is going to be like in the final exams. So the prelims are an important, if you can get access to them, it's an important past paper review for you to do before and in preparation for your maths papers. However, if you find that in your prelim paper you didn't do that well, don't get completely distraught, because remember, all it's doing, it's not meant to demotivate you at all. All it's doing is showing you where you still need to put in some work in your weaker subjects, okay? So don't let it completely destroy you if you didn't get very good marks in your prelims. It's just an indicator of what you still need to work on. Okay, so I first want to go through what you can expect in your maths paper 1 prelim, so not your prelim, your final exam. So this is your CAPS breakdown, and certainly, obviously, your prelim will have a similar breakdown as well. Okay, so for paper 1, for grade 12, the book work is, and that's all your theory, right? That's restricted to a maximum of 6 marks. Algebra, equations, inequality, that's about plus minus 25 marks, which is about 16% of your paper. Also, what you'll see is this order that I'm giving you now, of the sections, that's the order that it will appear in your exam. So firstly, you'll start with algebra and equations, then we move on to the next thing, which is patterns and sequences. That's approximately 17% of your paper. The next section would be finance, growth and decay, and that's 10% of your paper. Functions and graphs, and this is now excluding cubic graphs, that will be approximately 23% of your paper. Differential calculus, 24% of your paper, and probability is approximately 10%. And what most of you hopefully noticed, these two sections, functions and graphs and calculus, make up almost 50% of the paper just by themselves. So this is a very important two sections to make sure that you understand. If you really have time to focus a little bit more on sections, these are the two sections you want to concentrate on in your revision: functions and graphs and differential calculus. But obviously your paper is made up of all of these sections, so therefore you need to make sure you understand each and every one of them. Focus on the ones you're weak on, but don't forget those two big important sections: functions and calculus. All right. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go straight into the review of the prelim papers which are made available to us. And the first one I'm going to look at is the Eastern Cape prelim, and remember, this is maths paper 1. So we're going to start looking at the Eastern Cape prelim paper. This is question 3 in that paper. If you do have access to that paper, this is the question number, question 3. You can find it in the paper. Go along with us. Or if you haven't got that paper, take the question down now from your screens. And remember, what you're trying to do in this question is just take down the most important information that I give to you on the screen. You may not have time to answer the entire question, but just take down the key information. I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes to take this down. So the first question we are reviewing from this prelim paper has to do with sequences and series, okay? So let's go through this question and let's see if you've got all the important information you need to help you to do question 1.1. So you've got rows of numbers. You see that row 1 has just the number 1, and then row 2 has the numbers 3 and 5, and you can see that this seems to be a triangular, some sort of triangular number pattern that's on your screen. Row 3, we've got 7, 9, and 11, and then row 14 from 13 to 19. Let's first analyze a few things. If we go diagonally, so I'm going from the top of this triangular sequence and I'm going towards the left, okay? If I'm looking at those numbers in that diagonal, there is a definite number sequence or a number pattern between those numbers. In a similar way, there'll be a number sequence and pattern for the numbers going diagonally towards the right. And then certainly each of the terms in each of the rows also have a number pattern that relates one term to the other. Okay, so there's several questions that they could ask you in this specific question. But what they've decided to do is to say determine the value of the first term in row 80. So they're talking about, so we're going now diagonally from the top all the way towards the left up until row 80. And they want to know what's the number that's sitting as term 1. So what's the number in the first position there? So what is the value of A in row 80? Okay guys, so now you've got to think about how are you going to attempt this question. Well, because you can see that the numbers that are going diagonally from 1, 3, 7 to 13, those numbers along that diagonal that will take you to the first term in row 80, those form a number pattern. We're going to investigate that number pattern now and see how we can use that to help us find the first term in row 80. So I'm going to list the terms that we have. We were given terms 1, 3, 7, and 13, and I'm getting those from that diagonal, all right? So 1, 3, 7, and 13. Let's see if there's a first difference, a common first difference between the terms, or a common second difference. So to find my first difference, I say term 2 minus term 1, so 3 minus 1 will give me 2. And then I'm going to say 7 minus 3, that will give me 4. And then 13 minus 7 will give me 6. So you can see that there certainly isn't a first common difference. All right, so we go one more step because this looks suspiciously like a quadratic sequence. So in order to determine if a quadratic sequence exists, we need to get a common second difference. So I say the second term in the first difference, so 4 minus the first term in the first difference, so 4 minus 2 gives me 2, and then 6 minus 4 will give me 2. All right, so that means I've got a constant second difference of 2. That tells me that this number pattern is going to look like this. It's a quadratic sequence defined by an squared plus bn squared plus c. So that quadratic sequence, once I've got the values for a, b, and c, I can then put those values in and work out what the value of the first term in row 80 is, okay? All right, so let's go through and follow through with this question and find out the values of a, b, and c. Remember, in a quadratic sequence, 2 times a will give you the value of your constant second difference, which is 2 in this case. Therefore, we get that a is equal to 1. All right. Now, there's different ways to find the other values in that quadratic sequence. So far we've got Tn is equal to n squared plus, that should be a Bn, plus Bn plus C. Okay, so we know that a is 1. I've just replaced a with 1, so I get n squared plus Bn plus C. All right. Now, the way I like to work out the value of c, remember your quadratic sequence, if you were to plot your quadratic sequence, it would look very similar to a quadratic function, which means c would give you the same value as term naught. It will be the y-intercept, all right? So c is term naught. Term naught is the term that comes before term 1. So this is term 1, term 2, term 3. So term naught will be the one that comes before term 1. And term naught will have the exact same value as c in your quadratic sequence, an squared plus bn plus c. Okay, so what I do is I work out term naught by working backwards. I prefer to do this method to work out the value of c and then work out the value of b. There are other methods to work out a, b, and c. You could use simultaneous equations and you could find the values of a, b, and c that way. Any of the correct methods will get you full marks, all right, provided there's no mistakes. Okay, so to work out the value of term naught in term c, what I do is I go backwards in the sequence. So I know 4 minus 2 will give me 2. That's the first term in the first difference. So I know the constant second difference is going to stay the same. So 2 minus 2 will give me 0. All right. And then to get to term naught, which is the term before term 1, I simply say 1 minus 0 and I get 1. So therefore, term naught, which is equivalent to c, has a value of 1. All right. So therefore, c is equal to 1. So now my equation looks like this. Tn plus Tn is equal to n squared plus Bn plus 1. In order to find the value of b, you can then take any term in your sequence and you can do an equation. So for example, we can say term 2 has a value of 3. So using function values, that's concept, I can say that term 2 is equal to 3. Replace n with 2 and equate it to 3 so that I can find b. All right, so it's going to look like this. We're going to get 2 squared plus b, and I keep putting the square there. I'm not sure why I'm doing that, but anyway, we'll just correct that. So we get 2 squared plus b times 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, and we're going to solve for b. So we get 4 plus 2b plus 1 is equal to 3. 4 plus 1 is going to give you 5. Move the 5 over to the right-hand side by subtracting 5 on both sides, and you'll get 2b is equal to 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5 is minus 2. So therefore, b is equal to negative 1. So what you've got now is you've got the quadratic sequence that describes every term along that diagonal as Tn is equal to n squared minus n plus c. All right, so I want to find out the value of the term in position 80. So I simply substitute n with 80, which will give me the first term in the 80th row, and I'm going to get the following. We'll get 80 squared minus 80 plus 1, and that will give you a value of 6,321. So that will be the first term in row 80. Okay, I very quickly want to have a look at the next question here. So the next thing we had to do was calculate the sum of the terms in row 80 alone. So only row 80. So remember, we know now that the value of the first term is 6,321. Now, what you should also notice is in the horizontal direction of these number patterns that you see here, each term is 2 more than the previous term. So to get from 13 to 15, what do? I add 2. From 15 to 17, I add 2. From 17 to 19, I add 2. And that's true for every row of this pattern. So therefore, it's also going to be true for row 80. So the next term in this sequence in row 80 is going to be add 2 onto this, and we'll get 6, 3, 2, 3. And then to get the next term, you add 2 onto that, and you'll get 6, 3, 2, 5. This sequence is now an arithmetic sequence. So to calculate the sum of the terms in row 80, I simply use an arithmetic sequence. Okay, so this is now 1.2. So I'm going to do the following. I know that for an arithmetic sequence, Sn is equal to n over 2 into 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, remember your sequence is just the terms in row 80. So n itself is going to be 80 over 2 because we're looking for the sum of 80 terms. A was equal to 6, 3, 2, 1 plus 80 minus 1 will give me 79, and your common difference was 2. All right, guys, I know by this stage all of you know how to use your calculator, so you can plug that into your calculator and you'll get the following answer. You'll get the sum of 80 terms now, sum of 80 terms is going to be equal to 512,000. All right. Okay, hopefully most of you were able to follow that and you understand how we got to those answers. Let's take a quick break before we continue reviewing Prelim Paper 1. Welcome back, everyone. Remember, in today's lesson, we are reviewing Prelim Paper 1. All right, and so far we've looked at a question on sequences and series. The next section we're going to look at is finance, and this comes from the Eastern Cape Prelim, and this is September 2016, and this is question 6.2 in that paper. All right, I'm going to give you a chance to take down the key information from this question, and then we'll go through the questions together. So I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes starting now. Okay guys, so when you've got a finance question, it involves an annuity, the first thing that should come to your mind is I need to draw a timeline. A timeline helps, well, gives you an accurate representation of the mathematical or financial situation. So we take those words, we then take all of those words and summarize it on a timeline. So it's a very, very useful tool for answering financial maths questions. So let's start by taking the information that we've got and putting it onto our timeline. So before I read the question, I'm going to draw up my timeline. All right. Let's have a timeline that looks like that. And we've got the following situation. We've got a loan of 50,000 Rand is to be repaid in 48 equal monthly payments. All right, so it's a loan of 50,000 Rand. That tells me that at time naught, the present value of this loan is 50,000 Rand. That's what you're going to be paying off. It is to be repaid in 48 equal monthly payments. Okay, let's just carry on reading before we put the final time period in. Payments start 1 month after the loan has been granted, so 1 month later. So at T1, we start making payments. All right. So far it sounds like an ordinary annuity. Payments are starting 1 month after the loan. They tell you the interest rate in the loan is 16.75% per annum, compounded monthly. Obviously, you need to ensure that your compounding period and the payments themselves correspond. So we've got monthly payments and we've got our interest rate compounded monthly. All right. So we know that this is going to happen up until 48 times 48. And we're going to have X of those payments being made. The interest rate we're going to use is 0,1675 divided by 12. All right. Okay, so remember we're dividing by 12 so that we can match our interest rate with our equal monthly payments. So our effective interest rate is going to be 16.75% divided by 12. How did I get 0.1675? I simply took 16.75 divided by 100, and then I'm going to divide that by 12 in my calculations. First question, calculate the value of the equal monthly payments. So you can see that on your timeline, I've represented those payments as X. We don't know what they are. All right, so you've got to think about what you've got. You've got the present value, you've got the interest rate, and you've got N. So there's only one thing that's unknown in your present value formula, and that is X, which is the value of the payment. So this is just a simple substitution of the values which you know to calculate the values which you don't know. All right, so this is going to look as follows. Okay, so we've got our present value. We use the formula X times 1 minus 1 plus I to the negative N all over I. Okay guys, so now we're going to start substituting values in and rearranging the equation to solve for X, which is your payments. Your present value is 50,000 Rand. That's the value of the loan. Times 1 minus 1 plus I. In place of I, I'm going to have 0.1675. Divide that by 12. And that's for 48 periods. So N is going to be negative 48. And then we divide by I, which is 0,1675 over 12. In order to solve for X, you now need to divide both sides by this big fraction here. Really, at this stage, you should be doing all of this in the on a calculator, on your scientific calculator. You don't want to be working through this question in parts. So what you want to do is take 50,000, divide by everything on the right-hand side so that you can get your value for X. So I'm not going to focus on calculator work because at this stage of the year, I'm assuming that all of you know how to do that. So you're simply going to take 50,000 and you're going to do the following thing. If I divide, remember your tips and times, so it's going to be 0.1675 times by 12. Divide the whole thing by your bracketed term. And all of this you are putting straight into your calculator. Okay, so you'll do this calculation, see what you come out with. As I said, I'm not focusing on the calculator work. Put that into your calculator, see what you come out with. You should get the following answer. You should get that x is equal to 1,436 Rand and 29 cents. So that's the value of our monthly payments. So this is really a straightforward application of your present value formula, and if you've been practicing your finance throughout this year, you wouldn't have found this one too difficult. Let's have a look at the next one. So 3.2, they say calculate the outstanding balance immediately after the 30th payment has been made. Give your answer to the nearest rand. Okay, so we're looking at what's happening at time 30. We want to work out what the balance outstanding is at time 30. Okay, and that's immediately after the 30th payment has been made. So there's different ways to do this, guys. The one way to do it is you could take your present value of your loan and find out what its value will be at time 30. Okay, so you can grow it using your interest rate, which was 16.75% per annum, compounded monthly. Grow that to time 30, and then subtract all of the payments that you will make, all 30 payments up until that point in time, and that will give you the balance outstanding. The way I prefer to do it and to think about it is from time 30 to time 48, that's going to be 18 payments that still need to be made, all right? So I can work out the balance outstanding at time 30 by finding the present value at time 30, and that will give me the balance outstanding at that point in time. Okay, so we're going to find the present value at time 30, which means if we're going from 30 to 48, we're looking at 18 payments that need to be made there, and we find the balance outstanding at that point in time. Okay, so we're saying present value at time 30 will give us the balance outstanding, so we'll get the following. So just using your present value formula, we're going to substitute. Remember, we've already worked out that our monthly payment was 1,436 Rand and 29 cents. So we put that into our formula, and we're going to say times by 1 minus 1 plus I, which is 0.1675, divided by 12. And your N here, remember, because we're bringing that 48, those 18 payments, we're bringing it backward to the point 30, so to the time 30, our N here is going to be negative 18. And then we divide that by 0.1675 over 12. And then you plug that entire thing into your calculator, and you'll get that the present value at time 30 is going to give you 22,722 Rand, and that's rounded off to the nearest Rand. Okay. All right, hopefully all of you managed that question quite easily. But if you didn't, hopefully you have a better idea how to do that question now. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question, and I'm going to skip ahead to a question on probability. And this comes from the GDE prelim paper. This is September 2016, and it's question 11. So this is a question on probability, as I said. What I'd like you to do is, from the information that they give you, draw up your Venn diagram. That's all I want you to do here, is take the information that's on your screen and draw up a Venn diagram. We'll go through the question in detail. All right, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this. Okay guys, I'm sure you need a little bit more time to draw your Venn diagram. So I'm going to give you some time during this break. When we get back, we'll go through the Venn diagram together. Welcome back everyone. So in the review of this question, we're looking at probability, and remember the review of Prelim Paper 1 is what we're doing today. This question came from the GDE paper. It was the September 2016 Maths Paper 1. Okay, let's go through the question quickly. We don't have much time, so I want to try and get through all of it. We've got that a survey of 80 participants at the 2016 Olympic Games was taken. Athletes' participation was recorded as follows. And then what's listed is how many people participated in swimming, gymnastics, athletics, how many people participated in both swimming, athletics, gymnastics, and athletics, and then 9 people participated in all 3 events. Now for me, when I go through the information, I highlight the intersection where all 3 events intersect. That will be an important point, especially when you start drawing a Venn diagram. The important point to start with is where all 3 events intersect. So I highlight that and remember that. And then 69 participated in at least 1 event, and 11 participants remained as reserve. So in other words, they did not participate. Okay, so to draw up our Venn diagram, and in fact that is the first question. So it says, let the number of participants in both swimming and gymnastics, but not athletics, be represented by X. Draw a Venn diagram to represent the survey, and this is for 4 marks. So let's first talk about what our Venn diagram is going to look like. Remember, we draw a rectangle to show that we're interested in the Olympics and the participants taking part in these 3 events. We saw altogether there were 80 participants and 11 did not take part in any sports. Now you see I've got rings that are drawn. Those 3 rings are going to represent each of the events. So we're going to say let swimming equal to S, all right? Let gymnastics be G, and let athletics be the circle represented by A. All right, so that's where I'm going to start. That's what our Venn diagram is going to look like. I've shown that 11 people do not take part in anything, so they are going to be excluded from those 3 circles. So I said to you, when we draw the Venn diagram, before we go on to representing by X, I want to start at the intersection of all 3 events. They tell us that 9 people participated in all 3 events, so therefore that 9 is going to be the intersection of all 3 circles. So that 9 is going to sit there, where all 3, swimming, gymnastics, and athletics, coincide. All right. We then move on to the X that they gave us. They said, let the number of participants in both swimming and gymnastics, but not athletics, be represented by X. So what are they saying here? They're saying the intersection of swimming and gymnastics is X. That's really what they're saying to you. So when you go to your Venn diagram, you're going to mark an X in the intersection between swimming and gymnastics. All right. Those are the 2 key parts that you need to have in those circles. You need to have those 2 key pieces of information in order to help you complete the rest of those circles. All right, let's go and read through the other information they gave us and fill as we go along. Okay, we were told that, and again, what I like to do is I always like to work from the intersections. So I'm going to go to the next piece of information with the intersections. They tell us that 23 people participated in both swimming and athletics. So 23 people participated in both swimming and athletics. So remember, that's going to include the number of people that participated in all 3 events. So altogether, if 23 people competed in swimming and athletics minus the 9 who competed in all 3, I'll get 14 people that participated in swimming and athletics. All right, so you need to subtract that intersection of 9 to avoid overcounting. The next intersection they gave us, 19 participated in both gymnastics and athletics. So I go to my diagram again, gymnastics and athletics, those 19 people that participated in those include the 9 that participated in all 3. So I say 19 minus 9 and I get 10 people that participated in gymnastics and athletics and not swimming. All right. Okay, let's fill in the rest. We've got 44 people participated in swimming. So how many people participated in swimming alone? So I want to fill in this section now of my circle. So to get that, I say 44 minus the number of people who competed in swimming and athletics, minus the number of people who competed in all 3 events, minus the number of people who competed in swimming and gymnastics. All right, so 44 minus 23 minus x, and I'm going to get 21 minus x people competed in swimming alone. We go through the rest of that. For gymnastics, we've got 33 participated in gymnastics, minus all your intersections, and you get 14 minus x. And then lastly, for athletics, we've got that 39 people participated in athletics. So 39 minus 14 minus 9 minus 10 is going to give you 6 people who participated in athletics alone. All right. Once you now have this Venn diagram, you're not done, because they say to you, you need to then hence show that x is equal to 5. So we've drawn that Venn diagram. It's the first part, the key part of this question, but we still need to go on and show that x is equal to 5. So this is 5.2 now for 2 marks. Okay, so to show that x is equal to 5, I'm going to use the number of participants competing in at least one sport, and they told us that 69 people participated in at least one event. So therefore, we know that the number of people who competed in swimming plus the number of people who competed in gymnastics plus the number of people who competed in athletics is equal to 69. You can also get 69 by saying the number of people. Okay, they told us that the number of people who participated in one event, so that's fine. You can do it in that way. Or you can say 80 minus 11, which is your total number of participants minus the number of people that did not compete. Okay, so we get 44, the number of people who competed in swimming, plus the number of people that competed in gymnastics, I'm going to leave as 14 minus x, plus the number of people who competed in athletics, we knew were 16. Okay, so remember I'm excluding the reason I've got 16 here, I've excluded my intersections because those are taken care of in your swimming and your gymnastics. So we get, that total is giving me 69. And then we're then going to solve for x. So we're going to say 44 plus 16 and then 69 minus that. So we'll get the following. 69 minus 44 minus 16. Okay guys, so we're going to quickly put all of this into the calculator and then solve for x. So we'll get the following. So we've got 69 minus 44 minus 16 is equal to 9. So I have 14. Let's just write that down. So we've got 14 minus x is equal to 9 on the right-hand side. So therefore, if we solve for x, we're going to get negative x is equal to negative 5. 9 minus 14 is negative 5. Therefore, dividing both sides by negative 1, we get x is equal to 5. Okay, once you've got the value for x now, you can fill in all of the values that were unknown in your circles. Okay. Okay, let's have a read at the rest of the question. They then say, what is the probability that a participant chosen at random will participate in at least 2 of the 3 events? So at least 2 of the 3 events, that means they're going to participate in 2 or more events. Okay, all right, so we're going to do that as follows. So we're looking for the probability of them participating in 2 or more events. So that's going to be the probability of someone competing in swimming and gymnastics, plus the probability of a person competing in all 3, so swimming, gymnastics, and athletics, plus the probability of them competing in gymnastics and athletics, plus the probability of competing in swimming and athletics. So what you're seeing that I'm doing is I'm literally listing down all the possible ways that this event could happen. Okay, all right, so this is going to give me, so the probability of competing in swimming and gymnastics, you're going to get that from your Venn diagram. Swimming and gymnastics is going to be, remember, x is equal to 5. So we can put that on our Venn diagram. So the probability of choosing someone that does that is going to be 5 over 80, dividing by 80 because there are 80 participants in total, plus the probability of swimming and gymnastics and athletics. And remember, right in the beginning, they told us that that's 9 out of 80, plus the probability of competing in gymnastics and athletics, and that from your Venn diagram was 14 out of 80. Sorry, that was 10 out of 80. And then we're going to have the probability of competing in, so we've done gymnastics and athletics. What else do we need? We need swimming and athletics, and we're going to get 14 over 80. All right, and I've got that 14 again by looking at the intersection of swimming and athletics. Okay, when you add all of those together, you end up with 38 over 80. You can change that into percentage form and you'll get 47.5%. So that's the chance of selecting a random person that's going to compete in at least 2 of the 3 events, and that was for 3 marks. All right, so in this prelim review, we've looked at a bit of sequences and series, we've done some finance and some probability. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do any more of the paper. I'm sure that there's tons of questions that you still have, but remember to keep practicing, keep watching this channel because some of those questions might come up in other shows. Okay, guys, good luck with your revising. Until next time, cheers.